Welcome back, everyone. We are so excited to be sitting here in twinning big shirts. Can we just please call attention to the fact that we are sitting in the most iconic wardrobe ever seen on a podcast? Can I say that? Is it
Yeah, you can
allowed?
say that.
Honestly, we have such a hilarious topic today given our outfits. We sat down and hello.
This is the L Beecher uniform.
That's true.
Every day, without fail, this will be on.
That is true.
You have like hundreds of clothes in your closet,
I very much do.
like many, and you wear like 4 things.
And 2 of them
3 of them.
are on camera in this very moment.
3 of them are big shirts. 2 of them are on camera.
Exactly. And so we are just living our best life. We are very cozy and comfy. I am nearing the end of my period. And so I've just felt like an energy and was like, let's record today. Let's just sit down and be chill and just see what comes through. And so right when we sat down, Cam looked at me and he's like, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, I don't know. Should we meditate for a couple minutes and see what comes up? So then we did that. And then Cam was like, I want to talk about purpose today. So that's the direction we're going to go. And it's pretty funny to be talking about such a heavy kind of philosophical topic in big shirts, but I feel like that's very us. I was telling Cam the other day, I think our show is so funny for a myriad of reasons, but if you just looked at the branding, you'd be like, oh, these people are probably like cracking jokes or like, talking about like magical things, or like you get in there and it's like suffering, and it, like sometimes, we're funny too, and blah, blah. But also it just hilariously, like, you see us in big shirts and you think you're gonna get some Theo Von situation, and you click in and you're getting something much more.
You're getting cooked.
You're getting cooked. You're getting cooked, and your demons are getting cranked. And that's just what's happening on this couch and on that green chair. So with all that said, I just wanted to bring attention to the fact that we love all of you, and we love sitting on these couches and just letting it rip. And we hope that you enjoy this one, whatever this one is meant to be. So when you said, baby, purpose, what direction immediately became clear to you?
Well, I think there's so many different parts to our life than the average person's life. And I was like, well, why is that the case? And I'm like, well, we're very weird and odd.
Let's start there.
That just out of the gate, we're never normal.
Right.
But the big thing of the past handful of years has been us both developing our own purpose. And thankfully, this is incredibly rare. We're not married officially, but like we're married, like couple wise, we have the exact same purpose.
Right.
And I don't feel like it's like some one-liner or like a profession of any sort. It doesn't really feel like that, like the normal way people describe their purpose. It's just like this commitment and devotion to expressing ourselves in the most authentic way possible, and doing so to serve others. And that's what makes everything so different from us. Like, we don't really take days off. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, we
like
don't.
Every day we're doing something.
Yeah.
With the business, with our own creations, like, no matter what.
With
and
the
we,
walks.
We don't really take vacations.
That's
like,
true.
Ever. We don't really leave the house. We don't like go to dinner like all that often.
Big facts.
We just live a very different life from most. And I feel like so many people are on the verge of stepping into their purpose, but they just haven't yet. But those that have stepped into it completely understand. But those that haven't yet, or don't even know what that could be for them, our life looks insane.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. What comes up for you as I say that?
I think you're spot on. I mean, it's funny to think about it, because when you're like living inside of your life, you kind of have to take a moment to zoom out and to be like, what is my life? And like, you could take it in segments of like a day, a week, a month. And I feel like when I look at our life from the month view, I see that we literally don't travel anywhere. Like at all.
Like we really leave the house.
Yeah, like we don't like really leave the house outside of going on trips to get like a McDonald's Diet Coke, that we also record our conversation when we're on that trip the entire time. So that's probably unusual. Then we like are recording multiple times a week on different things, whether it's like host onboarding videos for the walks, or it's this show right here, or it's me reading my newsletter that I have. Like that's what we're doing. Or we're creating, like for me, I have this weekly newsletter now for the walks, and Cam has his weekly newsletter commitment. And I have like the Whimsy World / L Diaries, like, ooh, when's it gonna happen? You know, like that is our life.
And the board.
Yes. And the
board
board,
walks, everything with that. Like
the community, the managing the host community as well. We also have it like employees. And it's just like, okay, when you look at it from a monthly view, we don't travel. We don't take any real days off. And we work for long stretches of time, from like the morning to sometimes, like for me, it could be sometimes past midnight sometimes if I have the energy. And so it's like, that's odd. You know, we just have an infinite well of energy to put towards work, but it doesn't even feel like work.
it feels like play.
Right.
It feels like what we really want to do in their lives.
Right.
And there never is a time like, oh gosh, I gotta do this now. It's like we don't feel that way at all for anything ever. And that's so different and so weird. Most people live their entire life out of obligation and commitment and do things they don't want to do to make the money to, you know, support themselves, whatever it may be. And we've thankfully just kind of found a way to do something that makes money and can be very sustainable for us while also giving us a space to just fully dive into our creative endeavors and build businesses and communities. Like it's pretty awesome, but it's to the point to where we don't want to do anything else. So literally everything and everyone has been kind of set aside so that we can focus on doing this. I think it's just so different from most people's lives.
I totally agree. And I think this one's kind of hard to understand. And so if you're someone who resonates with this show, chances are you're very self-reflective, you're self-aware, you're looking at these things that we talk about within your own lives. Because like we talked about, like we're just a mirror for you. And you're probably either on the same path as us, or you're like at the beginning of the steps of the path. And when I look back at like myself, when I worked at Meta, and I was there for my entire career for 7 years, I literally graduated from University of Florida, started my first job in consultative sales at Meta, and then I worked there for 7 years in multiple different departments. And in that period of time, especially when I worked in sales, because that was so energy demanding upon me, I went through like a creative drought. And I say creative drought, not even in the sense of like, oh, I wasn't writing, because I wasn't, and I wasn't speaking, and I wasn't doing anything even remotely close to what we do now. Like I was waking up every single day and I was a tool for Mark Zuckerberg. And that's okay. Like, you know, no shade. I worked there for 7 years and I signed the contract and I'm the one who showed up every day. But you know, when you start a job, you kind of go into it with this like energy and anticipation. And then somewhere along the line, 7 years goes by and you're like, holy shit, it's been a long time. And in that entire stretch of time, up until 2022, which is when I actually changed roles out of sales, I got so much space back because of the different role. Like basically I was going to quit. And I staged like somewhat of a coup, and story for another time. And then one of my favorite managers ever, I call him the G-Mote, greatest manager of all time. He reached out to me and he was like, Elle, like stop sending DMs to people saying that you're going to quit. I will find you another role. And then, hey, it worked. So I got to this other role where I was internal facing. So now I was no longer like an email monkey, you know, answering people at all hours of the day. Like I had no sense of agency of my own time. I also had very bad boundaries back then. It was a recipe for me to be so drained. So all of my creative energy is going towards this sales job where people, literally I had 60 clients at one time. Like my whole day was managing other people's energy. And then I switched. I took a hard left into this new role where I was internal facing only. I was only working with Meta employees. There was no sales component, no external facing people. That's what we kind of call it internally in tech. And then I got all this energy back because now all of a sudden people who emailed me were employees of Meta and they were very respectful of my time. It wasn't like, hey, I see you haven't emailed me back in 2 hours. I'm going to report you to your manager. Like that's what would happen in sales. But when I switched functions, I basically got like 50% of my energy back, like in a snap of a finger. And then when I had that new energy is when I started hosting the boardwalks. That happened probably like 6 months to a year after me starting this new role, because there was an episode, or I would say, of like corporate burnout recovery that you have to go through, especially if you're in a very demanding job, like the sales job that I had. And then I needed time just to like build my energy reserves back. And then when I finally got enough energy reserves, it started expressing in different ways. And then I knew I was onto something when I started looking outside of the job to express my creative energy. And then it came out in this project, the boardwalks, which is now like a global movement. LOL, went from 8 people to 17,000 people. And it's like that only happened because I shifted job functions. I shifted out of this super demanding, no energy, zero in the tank. I'm going to bed at like 9 p.m. every day, like answering emails with my blue light screen and everything, to like, I'm walking, I'm like talking to employees on my own time, I'm like coordinating projects, I'm orchestrating energy. Like I just could not get over how night and day it felt. And that space is what led me to create this life now, where 100% of my energy is being used towards my purpose, my mission, not Mark Zuckerberg's, but my own energy and Cam's. And so I just wanted to share that from the perspective of having a corporate job, because I feel like a lot of people who listen to this show are probably in that position, or they know someone who is. And if I hadn't gone through the exact path that I did, where it was like changing role functions, and then where I was working remote, I had more space in my day. I then started like trying to find ways to creatively fill that space, which led me to my projects. I would not be here right now. Like if I didn't change from the sales role to the internal facing PM role, I would not be on this couch. And I definitely wouldn't have met you, because I met Cam at actually the yoga studio that I started going to because I had more space in my day. So it's funny how it all kind of snowballs. And so wherever you are in that journey, if you were like working a corporate job, you're there for years, you finally get more space, and maybe you're in that interesting little period, or you're like, oh, I really need to change. I need to quit my job. I need to start over. Like that's an interesting place to be. Or if you're like Cam, where he had one job, when we were just talking about this, you just had one job and you had one very kind of breakthrough moment. You want to tell him about it that happened that made you be like, F this, I'm out. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
that's powerful.
I mean, thankfully, I realized at a pretty young age, because my freshman year of college, I had a part-time job working in a financial aid office. And my number one job there was to triple check papers before they'd be shredded.
Oh, God.
And again, this is like, cubicles. This is, me working on holidays sometimes, working in the evenings till late at night on the weekends on college. So you're kind of depriving yourself of the college experience. Like it was a lot of things. I think it was a perfect experience in life for me to show me what I didn't want. And so when that happened, and after a few months working there, and I literally could not, my body, I felt this one day I was walking in, I felt like as if my heart sank from, around my chest to the bottom of my torso. I was like, what was that? And then that day was the day I was like, I can't do this anymore. And they're like, okay, you want 2 more weeks and then you quit? I'm like, no, tomorrow's my last day. I really cannot, and which I would never do really normally in a workspace, but it was so like, I cannot be here another day because my system is just like shutting down around this. And so that kind of really set the mark of, I am going to make it my goal to never be back in this situation again. Of, even though it wasn't technically 9 to 5, it was setting me up to be a 9 to 5. And plenty of people that had that same job I did immediately once graduated, moved into that exact same position in that office, the exact same thing, just paid full time and with salary and benefits, all that. And so I did everything I can to possibly avoid that. And I did so. I realized that sales would be an incredible opportunity for that. And in finance, my degree in economics, insurance sales was incredible for that on my own time, worked when I wanted. But yeah, then it got to the point where I realized I started climbing way up in a brand new company that I help pretty much start. And it got to this point where I was at this, what they call a tip of the spear event, which is basically the top people in the company come together to mastermind and to connect and to build the future. And in there was the insurance sales reps, which I was one of them. And then there were the insurance company owners, the people whose products we were selling to our clients, who came in to just talk with us about new products and just get to know us in general. And I remember having dinner with them, and all these people had made tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Some of them flew to this event, which was in Las Vegas, my hometown, on their private jet, like very elite class in terms of the net worth of people. And I remember sitting next to them and some of them with their wives, and they were just absolutely miserable. You can just tell, like, they felt lifeless. And I remember at the very end of the dinner, they're like, you know what, Cam, we see that you are just crushing it with this company. And if you keep doing what you're doing, give it like a decade or a few decades, you can be where we're at. And, people say that thinking that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, really? But in that moment, I realized, oh, if I don't leave now, I'm also going to hate my life, be depressed, overweight, bald,
Third wife.
The third wife, exactly. Kids don't talk to me type thing. And I'm like, oh, I have to leave right now. It's the very next day, the mastermind. I had like a presentation I was giving from the whole company that went really well. I was really excited about that and had some great talks about the future of where we're going and all that. And then immediately after, I remember calling the boss at the time and being like, dude, I'm done. I'm done. And I'm moving to Bali. This was a few weeks before college was ending. And, he thought I was joking. He's like, all right, take a few weeks off, do your thing, whatever it is. And I'm like, no, I'm done. Here's my book of business. Hand it to this guy, and this guy. I like them. They're good people. Give it to them. I'm done. And, at that moment, I realized that there's no going back. I will not. I have a new bar for what I will allow myself to do. And, thankfully I had saved up money. Thankfully, I came from a relatively wealthy family and I received inheritance to the point where I couldn't retire by any means, but I didn't have to work immediately after college and pay off, hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans like most did. And so I utilized the opportunity to the fullest extent. And thankfully I moved somewhere that was incredibly cheap and I can live off very little, which I, by the way, highly recommend to anyone who especially has no kids and no like very long-term responsibilities. And if you're younger, in your teens, 20s, 30s, healthy, moving somewhere that is an incredible life experience that gets you out of your comfort zone, and also the dollar you're getting paid in or have saved up money for goes a long way. I highly recommend that. And not because, you want to just retire, do stuff like that. I don't recommend that at all. I don't recommend retiring ever. But what it does do, and I think this is really tying back to what happened with you at Meta, it's like you went from a position where you had no space to then a position where you had a lot more space.
Yeah.
It allowed you to start writing online, allowed you to start the walks and do things like that. And then get to the point where you had enough space to meet me, all that. And so back to what we're saying here, that decision I made gave me, thankfully, the freedom to have so much more space in my day for that temporary period of time to really ask myself, like, what do I want to do with my life? And that is a privilege and blessing that so many people don't ever give themselves the opportunity to have, because it's a lot more reasonable than we think to give ourselves that space. But give yourself the space to really ask those questions of, what do I do with my life? And even more, I guess, existential of, why am I here? When I really gave myself time to do that, that is when the floodgates open to the contemplation, the reflection, everything else that kind of needed to take place in that period of my life for me to understand who I actually am, as opposed to the path I was given by society. And trusting myself enough that if I double down on that, the path that deeply serves me as opposed to what I've been given by others, that it's going to work out. And I just said, there's no other option but for it to work out. And then from there, when you give yourself that commitment and that trust and that space, that to me felt like the floodgates of creation just started.
Mm.
That's when I started writing the newsletters. That's when I started to make videos. That's when I started to host events, and just everything began rolling from there. And that's when I made space for spontaneity, for synchronicities, for serendipitous moments, which I didn't even understand existed back then.
Yeah.
But when you give yourself the space to do so, you just will meet the right people. You'll just feel the call to go to this event or travel here or whatever it may be. But giving myself the space to do so and not having stuck from a place of fear, the first job I ever had in college, and continued to work that job and live that life for I would have still been there now and probably would have done that for an entire career if I didn't really allow myself to just wake up and think about what I'm actually doing. Because I gave myself that space, it was able to start on a roll this level of creativity that has brought us to where we are now.
Yeah.
To where we, a year and a half ago, it's getting closer to what? 2 years almost. In a few months, it'll be 2 years to where you quit your job at Meta.
Yep.
And at that time, I was self-employed, where we have just gone all in on creating. And when I say it's the best life ever,
It's the best.
it
life
really is the
ever.
best life ever. And like we live, and this probably couldn't have happened if I was my grandfather's age,
Yeah.
even my parents' age, because the internet wasn't around. There were a lot larger barriers. There were legit gatekeepers stopping people from building businesses, and especially creating media or content that didn't really exist. You had to really know some people to get a chance at getting in the door on that, and definitely wouldn't be self-employed in doing so. You'd be very minimally paid for doing so in that way. But with today's technology, I mean, we've seen so many examples of people that have something they love to create, a skill that they learned that's very niche, but can dramatically help other people, whether it's just a fun little hobby they can learn, or something that can deeply transform them as a human being, or simply just a skill for their next job, whatever it may be. There is an infinite amount of ways that we can bring impact to the world. And then in return, we receive income. And that has just been mind blowing to me. And I really don't understand why people my age, despite utilizing the tools at our fingertips every day as a consumer in terms of YouTube, Instagram, just the internet as a whole, like a Shopify store, whatever it is, like they use these things every day, but it hasn't really flipped a switch in their head that they can be the ones creating, and they can be the ones building and producing and selling something of value to others. And especially with AI nowadays and how easy it is, you can just ask it any question and you can become an expert at anything very fast. And again, there's so many emotional readiness parts to that of why we doing it, have the eyes to see what's possible. But the moment you allow yourself to believe it is the moment you open yourself up to the serendipitous, synchronistic ways of life that change everything. And so that was a big, handful of years for me, and has really brought us to where we are here today.
Wow. I love that. I don't know if you've ever told that story on the pod before.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy we went there, because I feel like there's this wave of people who are starting to see this. It feels very real. Like there's a wave of people who are asking questions, who are like, I don't like my day. Like I feel drained. I don't feel excited. I don't feel alive. Like when you start to kind of really look at your situation through a lens of abundance rather than scarcity, which is really what it took for me when I was at Meta. Cam has always had a very easy time with having an abundance mindset. Like he did so much for me in this area, especially around money. I would say like my relationship with money has completely flipped on its head due to our relationship, which I'm very grateful for. I remember early on in our relationship, one of the things that you did was we would go to our weekly date nights at the steakhouse downtown in Austin. And one time, very early on, this is probably like the first month of us dating, Cam brings me this present with an envelope. And so we're eating and he's like, I have something for you. And the present is like this beautiful amethyst crystal that reminded him of his grandma, which was very meaningful to me. It was like this beautiful purple. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I love the crystals. And then it was this envelope with a bunch of $100 bills. And he was like, or not $100 bills, but $20 bills.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Hey, give us 2 months.
Give us a few months.
Let us cook, let us crank, and then there'll be $100 bills. Look at me being dramatic. So he had this envelope of $20 bills, and he was like, I just want you to give these away. Like, just give these away when you feel called, when you feel generous, when you feel like someone deserves it. And I was like, what? Like, that blew my freaking socks off. I was like, because I cannot even describe to you how much money scarcity I had back then, even though I had a 9-to-5 at Meta and really good benefits, like the best in the freaking world, honestly, and a great salary. And I was making over 6 figures and really having an easy time. And I was like investing money every month. And like, I cannot even put into words how good I was financially. But the thought of giving away a $20 bill like caused a tension in my body. I was like, oh my God, a $20? That's a little much, right? And I inherited a lot of money scarcity from my parents. And for good reason, because some parts of the family like really did not come from the best places, and some of like abject poverty. And so I get why there's like a scarcity money consciousness, but it took going into the extreme of like generosity and abundance of Cam's mindset of like, literally like, let's be the $20 bill fairy. And like he would go to a bank and come out with an envelope and be like, here's your money for the month. Like, I want you to give these tips to as many people as you feel deserve them. That was huge. Like, I remember that was the first real moment where I was like, whoa, this guy is different. Like, I had just never, ever experienced somebody who had the generosity that you did around money. And now, a full 2 years later, that was like probably March 2024 that we went on that date. And he first was Mr. Moneybags pulling out the 20s on me. But in 2 years later, it was those moments of Cam's generosity and choosing an abundance mindset in all moments that allow me right now sitting here today to like truly feel good and settled around money. And to not have money be this like voice in your head that is constantly heckling you or terrifying you and making you question whether or not you're going to like make it to the next month, even though you're more than good, changes everything. It changes everything. And so I highly recommend, if you're in this middle ground period, you're somebody who's looking at your life and like I said, you're saying like something needs to change. Like, I can barely make it through my day without wanting to like, go off into the freaking I'm thinking like really dramatic things that I don't want to say out loud, but like imagine like the most depressed sad boy emotions that you could possibly have. Like, you're like sitting on like a ledge or something and you're just like smoking a cigarette. Like, what's the point of being here? Like, I'm talking like peak nihilism. If you're in that energy around what you're doing or your job or your situation right now, then one way that you can just slowly start to eradicate this is by introducing more generosity in the way that Cam did for me. And you can do this for yourself. You don't need a partner to do this. All you have to do is just what Cam did. If you're good financially and you have a really good job, but it's just not fulfilling you, and you know this isn't your end destination. Like, if you looked at your life objectively and you're like, with all the skills that I have, what I love to do, is this the end of my road? Like, this is what I'm meant to be doing? Like, for me, I was like, I'm meant to be a PM at a tech company. Like, no, now I can look at this and be like, what the fuck was I doing? Like, this was not in any way the best use of my skills. I could be taking all of the skills that I'm using at that job, plus a bunch of skills I was not using at that job, because it's not until you're an entrepreneur where you can use all your skills. Like, every single skill I have gets used throughout our work. And it's so fulfilling. And so if you feel like you're not being fully utilized, like Cam was saying in the beginning, I feel like it's a lack of feeling fully utilized in your gifts that makes you feel like unsatisfied in life. Like, if 5% of your gifts are being used at your job, then you're going to feel 95% dissatisfied because there's so much energy that wants to be let out in what you're doing that you're not having an outlet for. And then you're too tired at the end of the day to create an outlet for that. So start with a generosity practice by just proving to yourself, like, I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. I'm not in scarcity. I don't need to fear about money, because that's what stopped me from leaving Meta. Like, what stopped me was fearing not having enough money. And I was totally good. Like, we're still living off of the money that I made at Meta like 2 years later. And so it's one of those situations where you have to ask yourself, like, what's stopping me? When I tell myself, like, I'm going to quit my job, what are the fears? Like, just ask yourself that. Literally what you do right now, you ask yourself, what is stopping me from quitting my job? And then just sit in silence. Sit in silence for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long you can go, and then pay attention to what's coming up. That will tell you everything you need to know about what angle you want to approach this from. So if it's, we don't have enough money to make it, then you need to swing in an opposite direction and have a generosity practice, like what Cam did for me. If it's money scarcity, like, take the opposite approach and prove to yourself, like, we're good. We're good. Like, we can quit. Like, we're so good that we're like giving away money or giving really great tips. Like, that allows you to see past the illusion of your fear. Like, the fear is not real. When you're on the other side of the fear, you can actually create this beautiful life in a well of abundance for yourself, as Cam and I have been doing over the last 2 years after I quit. And it may not look what you're thinking you're going to look like. And the path might be like really twisty and turny, like it was for us. We put things out there. We took them back. We started communities. We ended communities. We like went hard on certain things and we're like, wait, we're doing this thing with the walks that really, really works. Why don't we double down on that? It took us like a year and a half to even come to that conclusion. But we're here because we trusted ourselves. We trusted ourselves to know, like, money is not going to be the thing that stops me from living my most fulfilled life. We can make money if we wanted to in an instant. In an instant. Anyone can make money if they wanted to in an instant. And it takes, for me, that generosity practice I told you about to actually get to the place where I believe that. Like, I'm not blowing smoke when I say that. I'm not speaking an affirmation track to you. Like, oh, you know, I make money. Like, I get paid to exist, all this stuff. Because when you start doing the money work, you start saying things that don't really feel true in your body. But I've truly gotten to the place where I fully 100% believe that if Cam and I woke up tomorrow and we were like, we're dead broke and we need to make money, we can make a lot of money.
Immediately.
Like,
yeah.
In that day.
Well,
like,
it's because
we could make so much money.
Like, money is a tool currently being used to buy like our own internal fear consciousness as the logical reason.
Yes.
So the example of me giving you like the envelope of $20 bills, like pretty often, ever since we've met each other, ever since we've known each other, that wasn't coming from a place of like, oh, I'm so rich. Here, you have some. No, not at all. And like, I would say I am more conscious of finances than ever before. And I've always been to some extent. I come from, wealth management for the most part. I understand what's going on. And I wasn't giving from a place of just such obnoxious amount of abundance where here, you have some. That's what people think because they want to discredit the idea.
That's true.
But what it actually can be is just taking 2%, 5% of what you're making and being like, this fund of just 5%, this is what I'm going to be giving other people. So if you make $5K a month, whatever that may be, $60K a year, $5K a month, 5% of that each month is $250. That means about $60 a month, $60 a week, excuse me, you can just be handing out. And that could be just, when you order something at Apple Pay at the coffee shop or something like this, the 3 options they give you of like, the percentage of tip, pick the larger one.
The highest one.
It's an extra $1 or $2, whatever it may be. But it signals the universe, oh, I'm abundant.
Right.
Everything's all good. Again, you're only making $5K a month, whatever it may be. But that nod the universe of, oh, okay, money is abundant to me. I give freely. And just this is why I did this and established this, because when I had the space a few years ago to really understand these things, also coming from a family that thankfully has, through incredibly hard work and saving and great professions that they put a lot of time into to build a skill set, has been able to be very good financially. They also come from people that were raised in the Great Depression and were on disability and food stamps. And like, very I remember there's so many stories of especially extended family and grandparents where I mean they were clinging on to their purse and to the money they had in the bank account like there was no tomorrow. Like this wasn't something that was just natural in me because I come from a family of billionaires or something like that. That's not the case at all.
Right.
This is something that I am the first generation of truly embodying. And I've seen it to my parents to some extent, which is absolutely fantastic. And also I'm just trying to take it to a whole other level for everyone. In our lineage going forward, but just everyone we meet, to where when we meet the universe from a place of I'm abundant with my time, with my resources, with my happiness, with everything, and I give it freely. Also, like consciously thinking of it, I'm not being radical. I'm not just throwing it at the wind, but I'm consciously being aware of where I'm putting energy, but also saying to the universe, I am a giver. When you do that, and it's coming from a pure intention, the universe, it's now like a tab that they have on you. It's like you've just invoiced them when we actually do this.
Mm-hmm.
We invoice the universe, we invoice the creator, and then they pay us back immediately. And I remember really learning this even when I was in insurance sales doing something I hated. I remember when I would, when I was going to college up in Reno, when I would give money to oftentimes other students that like could barely make enough money to afford rent or, food, whatever it is, they're just really good people. Or like they have a huge homeless population there, just doing something I can do to buy them the next meal, whatever it may be. And especially when I started working with like kids foundations and like more structured local organizations that really use the money to the best of their benefit, the more I would give, I would notice. And sometimes, I mean, I almost get emotional thinking about it, but the moment I would give, whether it was my time or resources, or just a smile to some people, immediately after, I would get a call of like a huge sale going through.
Mm.
I would just get great news on the phone, or someone would come to me and say this amazing thing that literally made my day. And I saw the pattern in the universe of when I give, I immediately receive.
Mm.
And it takes a level of trust and faith in the universe and knowing of oneself to truly see that to the extent that we're currently at, which is, I think, the highest level of trusting our own creations and what we've chosen to build, and the network of people that we've brought together, like that will be fruitful for us. That process of just understanding the universal law of the more you give, the more you shall receive, that the balance of that always equals out.
Right.
And truly honoring that has been the greatest lesson, the greatest gift of my life to see that manifest. And again, money is the favorite excuse of the mind to keep us in fear consciousness.
Yeah.
I have seen the happiest people in the world be dead broke, and I've seen the happiest people in the world be very, very wealthy. And I've also seen the complete opposite, of course, the most depressed and miserable, victim consciousness, fearful people with nothing, and also the same with people who seem to have everything. And so what I've realized in between all that is money is simply just a tool that is a mirror. How we use money is a mirror for how we're using ourselves. And the more I really just double down on that and give like no one else, and therefore receive like no one else, it feels, with the amount of blessings in my life, it is a playbook that I just want to share with everyone because it can and will work for everyone. And there's something to, like, I deeply believe we're here to create. We really are. As humans, we're here to be human beings. And through that being, oftentimes creations manifest, right? We're not probably meant to be PMs at Facebook or to be, at some freaking cubicle with the lights, Excel spreadsheets. No one would say that's what humans are made for.
Right.
And so if we are more on the side of, maybe creating art, music, written form like we do, or even the communities that we create, the businesses that we create, I see those as creations too. Experiences.
Yeah.
With some it's more easy for a mind to justify putting attention towards because we see that as a direct way to make income as opposed to others. But when you see all of them equally and ask yourself, do I want to make art today? Do I want to help build this business today? Do I want to do this and that? When you have that level of freedom and trust, that is when the universe, you're actually working with it as opposed to against it. And when you're working with it, that's when the opportunities come. That's when the immense amount of income comes. That's when everything comes. Everyone who's ever created something amazing, they did so from creation. Everyone we admire in society, Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, back in the day, the Mozarts of the world, the Beethovens, of course, those are more art forms, but even like I was saying, Steve Jobs, like the immense companies that exist, those started with one person creating.
Yeah.
They had to manifest something into reality when they gave themselves a space to do so. When they set aside the fear consciousness of money and other things that take place as excuses of not being able to do so and actually allow themselves to create, that's when literally everything we admire in this reality, that's how it started. And so that doesn't mean we need to be the next Steve Jobs, but there is some slice of the universal pie that is ours. And the more we embrace that and the more we allow ourselves to embody that creation, the more space we have created to invite miracles to come in. And like that, I'm so grateful. It seemed like you were really learning that before we met, like a few months before we met. You really kind of zoning in on that. And then once we met, having two what felt to be very creative, very talented people together, we were like, oh crap, this is the way.
Right.
There's no other way.
Right.
And like, we're going to make it no matter what.
Yeah.
We trust ourselves no matter what. And even though during this period of the past few years, there's probably other things we could have done to have our net worth rise.
But where would that have been coming from?
Fear.
See, that I think is super important because we had a lot of opportunities to make money in a way that would have risen our net worth. It would have been very easy for us that we would have known was a compromise. And this word compromise is a word that Cam and I have been contemplating over the last month, and me especially, because I honestly believe it's my biggest shadow. And compromise looks different for everyone, and I think we misunderstand the word in many ways. But for me personally, compromise means I'm not putting my energy in the best place. I am not putting my energy in the place it wants to go. I'm not trusting that if I say no to what I really don't want to do and I just say a big old fat yes to what actually excites me, that it will all work out perfectly. And this can look as sneaky as, I'll give you a recent example for Cam and I. Cam is really phenomenal with people. Like Cam is a fantastic relationship manager. He is an amazing CEO and team leader. And for the Walk host, because we are now in 10 cities, we have like somewhere around 15 hosts. Cam is so good at remembering these tiny little details of the Walk hosts, the vendors, the employees. He is like a natural born leader of people and a manager of people. And he cares so much, and it's where he shines. That is not really where I shine. Not that I can't do it. And this is the big thing. I could do it. I could be very good at it, but it is not what excites me. And this is where compromise comes in, because when you're a very highly competent person, meaning that if you say, I want to learn this thing, and you could reliably learn that thing, you have a very high level of competence. And if you're listening to this show, you're probably in that category. So if you're in that category, the biggest threat to your fulfillment is compromise, because it's these small micro moments with ourselves. When I say, I'll give you an example. A Walk host reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and she was like, hey, I really would love to meet with you. I have some news I'd like to share. I, in that moment, was like, I'm in the middle of like a flow right now. I'm really in a creation season, but I should take this call. I should. Okay. I call this shoulding on myself. Okay. I should it on myself and was like, I really should take this call. And then I talked to Cam about it, and I was like, hey, this person reached out and I feel like, I interviewed her like a long time ago. And so it's probably the best for me to have this conversation with her because it'd be kind of rude if I was like, oh yeah, sure. Here, talk to Cam, like the head of expansion. He's so amazing, all this stuff. Like that'd be rude, right? So I should take the call. And then Cam was like, no, you shouldn't take the call. And this is just one small specific example that you can see yourself in. Anytime you say the word should, you probably should not. Like that's the rule, right? Because the should is really you compromising your energy. And it's really you not letting your energy goes where it wants to go. And you're also not letting other people's energy go where it wants to go. So in Cam and my dynamic, Cam's energy really loves connecting with people. A part of him turns on. He gets so much inspiration. He's like hosting the walk now and talking to all the walk hosts. And he comes back with like 5 pieces of content every time he goes to these things because a part of him comes alive in response. Response means not talking to himself. Like y'all know I could talk to myself for like 2 hours. I'm like, I have 4 personalities in here, but Cam's different. He needs a person. He needs a mirror. He needs a form of life, right? To go back and forth with. So what I'm trying to share here is the way that my energy is designed. Right now, in this moment, the idea of taking meetings or one-on-one calls or even just seeing people is a no for me. Like it is a big fat no. And it's hard for me in some moments to honor that because of the should, because of the obligation energy, and because I spent literally almost my entire life doing things I did not want to do because other people wanted that from me. But the more that I've just said, no, I am not going to take that random meeting because I think that it would make this person feel bad if I didn't, right? I'm just going to say, hey, I'm heads down. We'll make sure you're taken care of. Can we make it async? I would love for you to talk to Cam because that's Cam's area of genius. And this is the best part. When I say no to what I don't want to do in beautiful partnership, it's usually what excites Cam. So me actually honoring where my energy wants to go allows his energy to flow more efficiently. So the thing that we tell ourselves is if I don't do this thing, then something's going to go wrong. The person's going to be upset. Someone's going to get their feelings hurt, or I don't want to make this person do this thing I don't want to do, which I did use Cam as an excuse in the past. I would literally say, well, if I don't want to do it, I don't want to make Cam do it because that's not fair. So I need to bite the bullet for the both of us and just do the thing. But the funny thing is, Cam actually wants to do it. So that whole mental masturbation I just did there is not even accurate because Cam, when we had the conversation, he was like, well, have you ever asked yourself if I wanted to do it? Or are you just assuming that I don't want to do it because you don't want to do it so badly? And I'm like, damn. So I share all of that in conclusion to bring your awareness to the idea of compromise. Compromise, compromise, compromise. Wherever your energy is going, that makes you feel a contraction, makes you feel like, oh, not this shit again. Like, you know what I'm talking about. Put your attention there. Because if you can figure out in some way or another to set a boundary to prevent this feeling from happening, or to talk to someone in your job and say, hey, I really don't like this specific aspect. How can you work with me to make this easier on me? Which I did when I was at Meta multiple times. Like, trust your inner knowing to know what that heaviness and contraction is telling you. And then also put an intention, like Cam was talking about, to trusting that you don't have to live that life. Put an intention out there into saying, if I actually stand firm and I really dislike or I do not want in this moment to do this thing, and I own that and I actually communicate that outward, that you will be met in return by a very respectful, understanding person who's willing to take that off your plate. You have to believe that as a baseline belief, or you'll be stuck in compromise your entire day. So I know you have something to share on this, baby, but I just really wanted to bring them into this feeling because I feel understanding the feeling and where it exists in your day and taking steps towards eradicating that. So same as the money, if you have a scarcity mindset around money, how can we take steps towards generosity? If you have a certain relationship with compromise, and there's a lot of that happening in your day, how can we take steps in the opposite direction towards empowerment and agency and reclaiming of your energetic boundaries? That's what we're trying to do. We're identifying where the shadow lives, where the heavy part lives, and we are eradicating it by choosing the exact opposite pole.
I completely agree. It's like compromise is the death of creation. Like the more you compromise, the more you can't create. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And what we've noticed with our life is the more we create, the happier we are, the more fulfilled we are, and the more money we make. So compromising doesn't really fit in the equation if you really see it from that objective lens. And yeah, it's so funny because I think for so long people compromise because they believe they can't do better. And in this example, you believe that no one else would want to do this thing.
Right.
But it's so funny, I mean, especially as we're stepping into entrepreneurs and business owners with now employees, it's like, if you don't want to do it, all right, it now passes to me. Now I get to ask myself, do I want to do it? No? Okay, now pass to the people we're paying to do things we don't want to do.
Right.
That we brought them onto the team because they have a skill set that is complementary to what we don't want to do. So everything that we don't want to do, they not only do want to do, but went to school to do and know how to do it well.
And they enjoy
it.
Yes.
And then it's getting to the point, especially technological wise right now, where if they don't want to do it, more than likely AI can do it.
AI
and
will
so
be thrilled to do it.
The thing can be done very fast and
Right.
very efficiently. But it's not really about that, right? It's not about the common sense, sadly. I feel as if we all have this percentage in our lives of compromise that we're used to. And when we are faced with an opportunity that could actually make our life easier, but we're not ready to believe that that's possible, our nervous system can't handle that level of truly loving every part of our day and not needing to do a single thing we don't want to do, then it kind of fights against it.
Yeah.
So in that example, like there's nothing stopping you originally from just thinking about it for a second of, I can just hand this off to camps, no problem. But there is this compromise percentage in you where 95% of life may be creation. The last 5% is like, this needs to be filled by something. Okay, it's this call with this person. Okay, it's this and that. We have this for all aspects of our life. And thankfully, you and I have just gotten to the point to where we're 98, 99% there, if not 100% in just full creation with no compromise, where we literally don't do anything any day that isn't our highest passion.
Mm.
And thankfully, funny enough, our highest passion is also our highest good. Because both those are always around creation. Both those are always around connection with each other, with other people that deeply matter to us. And there's something just so beautiful in that when you give yourself the permission to fully live your life the fullest and fully take charge of every moment of your day. On the opposite end of that, it's full responsibility, and you need full awareness and intentionality into every aspect of your life, where you're spending your time, your money, all that exists in that container. But once you really turn over all the stones and look at everything and ask yourself, does this serve me or does it not? That's when life gets really good.
Mm.
Your life, quality of life, depends solely on what you have decided serves you and doesn't serve you, and to whatever level you still allow what doesn't serve into your life. So yeah, it's just, that has really been, I feel like, the huge steps that you and I have taken over the past handful of years of not allowing ourselves to compromise on anything. And it's really cool because we're in this season where we're really beginning to see the rewards of that.
Mm-hmm.
Not only, and I think it starts with internally, where we feel it in the day like, today was just such an amazing day. And we think that every single day.
Right.
And we're filled with just creation. And we also feel at the end of the day like we're, in the best way, kind of depleted of all of our creative energy. We're like, we emptied the vessel today.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother fulfilling part of life that we'll probably get into a different podcast. But we're reaching this point to where internally we feel so fulfilled, and externally the abundance is coming. Now, we've always had an immense amount of abundance so many different ways, but it's now coming in all the forms. And it's really, really cool to see. And it's a lot of fun. But that only happened when we consciously made the choice, even when it didn't feel easy or doable or reasonable, to trust ourselves in living life on our own terms and from a place of creation. And all those creations that we have make up our purpose.
Yes. And this is what I would love to bring it back to, and then we'll probably close this one out because this one was quite a heavy hitter. So I think what people really get wrong about purpose is that it's a noun, but purpose is a verb. So if you just like reframe the way you're looking at purpose, it is not some intangible thing that you have to get right. It's not like you're going to read one line that like you ask ChatGPT, like, given everything you know about me, what's my purpose? And it's like whatever line it says is like, oh my God, is my purpose. Like it's never going to be like that because purpose can't be architected by the mind. If purpose is architected by the mind, then you end up in compromise because the mind is always going to lead you towards safety. It's always going to lead you towards the familiar. And so what does that rob you of? It robs you of the experience of actually trying and failing and experimenting to where you can actually end up where you're meant to be. So if you look at me and Cam's journey, we found our purpose from number one, giving ourselves the space to do so. Number two, looking critically at the shadow of something like compromise, like we talked about, or dissatisfaction, or what's another one, baby?
Compromise, dissatisfaction, obligation, any
Obligation.
should have statements.
Should statements.
They're all the same thing. It's all decisions made from fear.
Right. Which is from the mind because the mind is seeking safety, right? So that's number two. You know, you look at your life critically, you do an audit of let me just notice myself. Where do I start to say the word should? Where do I feel obligated to do certain things? Where do I feel like I'm coming out of force or where I'm doing things I really don't want to be doing, but I'm doing them anyway? How can we pay more loving attention with a lot of tenderness, by the way, because this is a long, long process going through the forest of paying attention to yourself and also making small little modulations of like, oh, I noticed that, caught that. Well, what am I going to do about it? You know, it's like a catch, release, change behavior. It's that loop. So just be gentle with yourself when you're in that step and in that loop, because we're always going to be there. Like Cam and I do that still to this day because we're on the last percentage points, it feels like, to like fully eradicating some of these, which is very exciting. But it took a long time of like a lot of almost daily effort to get to the point where we're almost there. Thank God. But then from that level, once you start to notice your own shadows of compromise, of obligation, and you start to then next step change the behaviors. So now you're optimizing more for, you know, where do you feel most in flow over where you feel forced? Where do you feel excited over obligated? And how can you switch the percentage? So instead of it being 70% obligation, 30% excitement, now it's 70% excitement, 30% obligation. You just keep whacking away at that percentage point. And then that last step is now you have the space. Now you know yourself well enough to know what your compromising patterns are, your obligatory patterns are. Now you know what makes you excited and you can start playing. You can start experimenting. So this is where for me, when I told you about my journey on Meta in 2022, I got enough space. I started looking at myself critically. I started my inner work journey. I started noticing what really excited me. And then I hosted my first event in July of 2022, which became the boardwalks. I hosted my first walk. 8 people showed up and it's so much fun, but I was really kind of afraid. I'd never hosted anything before. And I was like a major perfectionist back then. And so there was a part of me that like wanted to recoil. It's this very delicate stage and you know what I'm talking about, or you may be in it right now. But when you go out of your comfort zone and you're doing something you've never done before, it's a very delicate space where you have to just commit to keep doing it. Cam and I talk about it like commit to a season. Don't just say, I'm going to do it once, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to recoil. We've seen literally hundreds of people who've come to the walks, some of our clients, community members across the board go through that pattern where they put themselves out there. They like, let's just say host one event, and then they go back into their shell because they're like, oh, that didn't go the way I wanted it to go. People didn't like it. Are people going to come again? The mind comes in and then sabotages your progress. But if you commit to a season of experiment, you commit to, for me, it was like, I'm just going to keep showing up and hosting this thing. And I started doing that every week. And then I started noticing the momentum. I started noticing that I felt so much more safe in my own body. I started noticing my boundaries were getting better, that my social life was getting easier, that everything started improving, but it wasn't overnight. It's not going to happen the very first time. You're not going to hit a home run the first time you swing. You got to give yourself that space and that commitment, that devotion of, I'm going to give it a season. If you give something a season and it doesn't work, you are free to pivot. Cam and I pivot all the time, but only after we gave it a season. I don't think Cam and I have ever just done something one time and then said, nah, fuck that, unless it was really miscalculated. But for all of our communities, we had them for at least 3 months, it felt like. Is that fair to say?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to allow yourself to kind of go through the cycle of fear that comes up, and the external metrics, whether they're too much that you can't handle it or not enough to where you thought you'd have higher expectations but no one was liking it, whatever it is. There needs to be a period of time where you just let yourself see through it. And that's why, let's say for the boardwalks, what we're doing right now is we're having, for some it's an 8-week container, but the default is a 12-week container where people commit to a season. It's 3 months, so a legit season of their life to hosting the boardwalks in their city.
Yeah.
Because if we just said, oh yeah, just host one boardwalk in the city and you'll see how it goes, either it's going to be way too many people, it's going to make them anxious and overwhelm them and be done, or no one will show up, which has happened a few times to a few hosts, or 2 people show up and just wasn't, your favorite experience ever. So you're like, I don't know if I want to do this. There's not enough inputs and data to see if it's actually going to be worth your time. But if you give it a season and you really see, especially after 12 weeks, you're going to gain some momentum. You just, again, with the universe, consistently, intentionally injecting energy into one thing, into one event, into one creation, whatever it may be, you are going to feel the rewards of that. And then the universe is going to supply you with the amount of people, with the amount of just anything that is the metrics of that thing you're trying, to the level of which you're ready for. And then from there, you can take an objective look to see if it's right for you or not. But without that, and you only do 1, you only do 2, you don't actually get to know if this is actually for you or not.
100%. I could not agree more. And we learned this through like the fire of trial and error, where Cam and I think, have always just been like quite devoted people. And we recognize that if we do something once, we're only going to get better. More people are only going to come. Everything gets better when you tend to it like a gardener. And this is what I tell the walk hosts is like, you're a gardener of a space, of a seed. And every week you go to that garden and you take your watering pail and you just pour water on that seed. And every week that sprout gets taller and taller and taller. That's how you see it happen. But you're not going to be a gardener and have an entire tree on day 1. And so I feel like so much of what I've seen holds people back is they want instant gratification. They want things to be the way that it would be on year 3 on day 1. Not going to happen. So if we just reframe right now that like purpose is a verb, purpose is something that we experiment with. Like you don't have to get it right. You're not going to get it right on the first sentence. You're not going to say, my purpose is to be this thing. How do you know? You haven't even done it yet. Give yourself the opportunity to actually experience what you're drawn to. Because for me, I was kind of scared, but drawn to hosting. I have a really vivacious personality, if I do say so myself. And I feel like I'm a great host. I'm very organized. I'm very competent. I notice subtle energies. I have all the makings of a great host. And so I told myself, I don't even know if I'm going to like it, but I'm just going to show up and give it a try. If I had banked me hosting off of the first 4 walks, I would have quit. That's one of the biggest things is like, if I had told myself, I'm just going to give myself even just 1 month and then decide if I want to keep doing this, I would have quit, because at that time, at the level of consciousness I was very afraid. I did not know how to have direct conversations. I did not know how to community manage. I learned everything from basically square one. And I wanted to learn these things on my own, because that's how you get embodied wisdom. You don't get embodied wisdom by reading a book about how to manage a community. You learn it by actually being in the fire and having some rando try to pick up chicks and then other rando try to sell his MLM. And you literally learn by witnessing and experiencing. And so if I had stopped at 4 weeks, because at that time, I had no rules, I had no structure, weirdos were coming, people were trying to hit on me, I was very uncomfortable, I would have stopped, and then we would not be here. Literally, we would not be on these 2 chairs if I stopped when I felt I just got to throw in the towel. I don't know if this is right. I gave it time. I gave it a season, and then look what's happened. Look at what it's turned into. And then Cam comes into my life. He attended the walks after we met, and he started attending, and And then he's like started hosting with me, and now he's hosting, and now he's managing the host network, and we're now in 10 cities, and it's like thousands of people have been enjoying this. Like the newsletter has thousands of subscribers. Literally everything I'm just saying right now would not exist, including probably Cam in my life, if I didn't give myself that season of devotion, of let's F around and find out. Let's figure out, is this for me? Hosting was definitely a line for me for the amount of time I did it. I hosted every week for 3 years, and then I stepped down. And look at what I'm doing now. Now I'm hosting this show. Now I'm not taking any meetings I don't want to take. I'm like kind of a hermit. I'm a cave woman. I create all day. I write a weekly newsletter seen by thousands of people because that's where I want to be right now. Now my devotional container is like this newsletter, and I'm really loving it. It's super exciting. It's new. It feels so real. I feel like a curator. My energy just feels like it's flowing like nobody's business. It's how I felt at the beginning of days when I was hosting. And so it's just like, I share this because when I'm sitting here, and I think Cam and I are very unique cases where we have a lot of passions. We have a lot of things that excite us, and we allow ourselves to play with it all. We do not limit ourselves. We don't hold ourselves back. We don't say we have to pick one lane and like you do one thing and that's what you got to do. And we're known for this thing. Fuck no. We are the opposite of that. We have like 15 streams of passions at any given time, and we let ourselves explore them for seasons to see what sticks. It's okay for you to give yourself your devotional energy to something and then be like, you know what? I gave it time. This isn't for me. Perfect. That is good. I think we glorify people who stick with one thing forever when in reality, some people like Cam and I are not designed to do one thing. We literally are not designed for that. If Cam and I, if you told us, oh, you just have to do one thing for the rest of your life, you're just going to be the podcast host of Whimsy World for the rest of your life, we'd be like, what the fuck? No.
I'd immediately resent it.
Yeah, I'd immediately be like, fuck this show. Oh my God. And it's like, everybody's like, yeah, this is amazing. We're like, no.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? I want to bring that up.
Yeah.
You said like, you got to see what sticks. And I think what's really important for people to understand is it's not what sticks to others or like, has it stuck to the collective and are people coming or are people paying me, whatever it is. Like that's great. And if you're having that, great. But what we mean by it sticks is internally,
right?
We feel lit up around it. That's what I think makes our events and our creations so different from everyone else is because we only do things that light us up internally. And we've trusted over time, and thankfully that's really paying off right now, to where if we just do everything that feels right to us internally, the external will come.
Right.
And just naturally, if you're lit up by it, that's immediate longevity, forever long it's meant to be. You don't have to like, oh, got to record another Whimsy. I got to host the walk, whatever it is.
You'll never feel that.
Exactly. Never feel that at all. So it all comes down to, do you enjoy doing it? And thankfully, I think that's just what we've set as the bar for everything we do of how does it make us feel inside? Does it give us more energy or does it drain us? And once we had that mindset really just ingrained into us with everything because we didn't believe we had to compromise and not like something, but still do it because of the external metrics it may give us. When that is the case, I mean, that is why we've been so sustainable and so successful.
Yeah.
And it really is that easy. Just do what you love because you are designed to love that thing for a reason.
Or multiple things.
Yeah. Like us.
And I feel like it's all going back to how you're designed, like Cam was saying, because I think that there were many times where I judged myself for being quote unquote scattered or not being able to choose one thing. And when you fully realize that, like, if you're a one thing person, that's perfect. If you're a 20 thing person, that's perfect. Never try to swap those because we're always like, oh, the grass is greener over there where I can have one single funnel and my whole life is made. Yeah, that sounds super simple and awesome, but also I'll be bored. Like Cam and I have so much energy that wants to go in so many different places. On this show, we talk about everything under the sun. And that's also why, funny enough, I'm just going to use this as an example. We rebranded this show from Listen Before Love to Whimsy World. Why did we do that? Because we were tired of talking about dating and relationships only. We love talking about dating and relationships, but 40 episodes in, I mean, there were so many bangeritos in there. I mean, if you really have any problem in a relationship or dating, you listen to any of those episodes, we got you covered, chief. Like that thing was immaculate. And we stayed for as long as felt right. And then when it stopped feeling right and it felt like a slog, and Kim and I are just so familiar with this feeling of like, I don't know what do we have to say? Like what do we have to say? We've covered so much ground. When it stopped feeling alive was the exact moment that Cam and I stopped doing it. Number one, look at our behavior. We took a break and then we came back and we're like, new podcast. And the people who are still here in that transition are the exact people we rock with. Because you guys understand that you wouldn't want us to be the dating relationship monkeys sitting here talking about shit that we were not excited about. You want us to just be ourselves and talk about whatever's interesting, because chances are you're going through something very similar and this conversation will be helpful, supportive, and loving and healing. And so that's the bet we made. We made a bet, even though Listen Before Love was on a upswing, it was getting a lot of subscribers. It was very not clickbaity, but like click-worthy content where it'd be like anything dating and get so many clicks. We could have just stayed and we could have made that work. However, the aliveness or lack thereof that we felt around that would have not made it sustainable in the long term. Because we would have sat down and been like, okay, now it's like coming from the mind. Now we got to like think about like, what's the episode gonna be? And it takes away from what makes us so magnetic and so fun to listen to. Because right here, like, who knew what we were going to talk about? We had a phenomenal conversation because we just sat down, we meditated. We're like, what the hell do we want to talk about? Oh, purpose? Great. And I think this conversation has been phenomenal. This never could have happened on Listen Before Love because it wasn't a love topic.
If we kept that going, we'd be like, the top 3 Hinge comments to leave for this, because that's where it ends. And that's where so many creators get to, where it's like they're just kind of milking what works
right
way past the point of it actually exciting them. And then they burn out and they stop. And then, whatever business they have attached to it,
goes down,
takes a nosedive and they start freaking out. Like, what am I going to do now? But if we just double down on every time we come in the studio, we're going to have something alive for us.
Yeah.
And for us to freely share that, what we'll do is just create something we're really proud of, something we really enjoy, something we're always looking forward to, and people that are excited to see all aspects of us in all different moods, all different subjects of expertise, all that exists, all your many different personalities.
Yeah. All are welcome here. All of me is welcome. And all of you are welcome.
And it's like, why would we want to build anything else? Because everything else is going to feel like a trap.
Exactly. And so it was so liberating when we got to that point with even just using LBL as an example. When we got to the point where Listen Before Love stopped being fun and stopped feeling energizing was the exact moment that Cam and I were like, oh, there it is again. All right, what are we going to do about it? And we could have gone a lot of different ways with that, honestly. We could have kept going, number one. That just would have ended up in us taking an indefinite pause. I know us. We would have been like, oh, okay, like let's just do one episode a month. And then be like, okay, let's do an episode a quarter. And we just wouldn't have done anything. So that would have been one route. So basically forcing ourselves to keep going, which would have ended up in us just being like, nah, we're done. Or we could have kept Listen Before Love as its own time capsule podcast and then started another podcast. That was a very real option I was toying with. But the third option, which was, you know what? We're going to trust that the people who enjoy listening to us talk about love, dating, and relationships are going to enjoy hearing us talk about this. And so we're not going to do the whole, let's keep it as it was and whatever, like me being weirdly obsessed with visuals and the period of time where we were in transition and we didn't have like the 3 camera angles and all that stuff. I'm just going to let that happen. And then whenever it's time for us to revisit the edited podcast realm, it'll appear. And that was really liberating. Like we allowed ourselves to transition and to pivot when our energy waned. And now I really feel like our episodes are so fun. Like every time we sit down, I love just noticing what even comes through because we don't plan anything what we're going to say. Like truly, we were about to hit record while we were meditating. And Cam was like, should we record this? And then we'll just start speaking. And I was like, LOL. Maybe we'll do that one time. But I use us as an example because if you are as willing and trusting, as we were in that situation, to say, my energy is waning. What's my next move? Then that is where the raw material is. That is where like the pivot can actually become a skyrocket. And you go from like a downward line of excitement to like, ooh, we're back to exponential growth because now it's new and it's fresh again. So in this container, Whimsy World, Cam and I really thought more so than anything, how do we create a container that contains whatever we are? It's not hinging on a certain topic. It's not hinging on a certain category. It's literally just us. Because all we know is that we're going to be here.
And it's going to be a vibe.
And it's going to be a vibe, and big shirts are going to be involved. And we're going to talk about whatever is alive in this moment. And so we designed our decision around that. Instead of putting ourselves in a box only to transcend the box later, we're like, what if we just created like a giant ass pool instead of a little red Solo cup for ourselves? So if that resonates with you and you're someone who has multi passions, think about it like that. How do you create so much space and seasons of experimentation so that you can learn what are the edges of yourself that you really want to try? I've always told myself I would be a really good event host, so I tried it. I'd be a really good writer, so I tried it. We would be great at podcasting, so we tried it. You have your own version of what I'm saying right now, and allow yourself to play, experiment, and go there. And at the end of that cycle, whether it's a 3-month cycle or however long it ends up being, you'll be able to decide, okay, that was a cool side quest. Or wait, that's accidentally the main quest because I love this shit so much I could do it forever. That's how you actually end up finding your purpose. You discover your purpose through action, not through thought.
I love that. That's a great place to end off for today.
I love it, baby. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one today, y'all. We are so grateful to be back on these beautiful chairs, chilling in Big Sur, bringing y'all along for the ride. And we hope you have the most amazing, amazing week ahead. See y'all later.
Love y'all.
Bye.
Peace.